Quick Resume, a feature you've probably heard about on the Xbox Series X or S, probably one you've tried if you have either of those consoles. In short, I want to test it, I want to push it to its limits, and I want to see how far it goes. Firstly, if you're not familiar with it, Quick Resume essentially allows you to just switch between games incredibly quickly, leaving them exactly where you left them, as it puts them all in a suspended state, and then a second you go back to it, it's exactly where you left it. So for example, probably going to be different to what's on the screen, but you can be in GTA 5 story mode, suddenly you want to play Forza, you can go over and play Forza if you left it open a couple of days ago, that's still waiting for you. Now you want to play some Uno, you can go ahead and do that, and all of a sudden you change your mind after you played that for a bit, and I want to go back to GTA 5. That's still waiting for you as well. Now what I'm here for in this video is not just to talk about this feature, but it is to test it and eventually break this feature to the point where we see where the limit is so you guys know healthily how far you can push it and just not worry about it at all. For example, how many games can it actually hold in its storage, which it has a set amount, hence why the Xbox has about 802 gigabytes, whereas if you get the expandable storage, it's about 9 something, because extra bit is sectioned off just for Quick Resume. And then when it fills its storage up, will it start closing like a bunch of them at a time, all of them at a time, or will it just go from oldest to newest, or newest to oldest for some reason? And we'll also discover how dependent it is on the intensity of a game. Example, a big full fat game compared to Uno, for example, is it going to treat them the same, differently? Because obviously one's going to need more storage to be put in suspended state. That sort of thing, we're going to push it for all its paces. Also, Microsoft Save with optimized games, like fully optimized ones that have the X/S logo on the game, 3 of them at one time can be held in Quick Resume, assuming the game supports it. Fun fact, all the games I have that are optimized aren't supported with it. I have Black Ops Cold War, Rocket League, Fortnite, and they're all basically online-based games. I have games that are online-based that have Quick Resume that aren't optimized, but none of those 3 work, even in an offline game mode where you can pause it, and Rocket League doesn't let me use it. They haven't added that feature, so those 3 won't be used, and it'll only be back-compatible games from Xbox One and backwards, but you get the picture either way, but they say free, so I'll hopefully test it in the future when I get some more games. Anyway, enough of all that. Let's start testing. Let's just go straight in with probably a very simple, but we've got to start all the way from the bottom, 2 games. Let's see if it handles that. So, as you'd expect, having one game open, switching to another game is no sweat for this console at all. I started with good old Uno, good old fashioned Uno, pretty light game obviously, but got to start somewhere. Swapped to GTA 5 and it was completely fine. Obviously, both games quickly swapped back. I'll be showing the footage on screen. It won't be exactly in sync with me saying it, but I went on from Uno, went to GTA 5, went back to Uno. Uno was still on, GTA 5 was also still on. But yeah. Also, while I was testing this, I know I found it difficult to actually keep track of which games I'd opened and not. I think I messed up once or twice. I'll mention hopefully where I did it. But for your sake, it'll be on the screen somewhere. I'm not sure where I'll put it, but it'll be on the screen so you can see which ones we have open, which ones are going through, etc. Once again, we added a 3rd game to the mix. We went with F1 2020 this time, which is a decently heavy game, I'd say. Well, I'll say heavy. It's a decently good game anyway, in terms of pushing the console. We loaded up some My Team for this bit, and then we hopped straight back into Uno to see if that was still good. Of course, that was fine. Same with GTA 5 as well. It's handling it very easily so far. I'd be surprised if 3 games held in a save state, or 2 technically. I'm going to say 3 for this. It would be surprising if that flapped the console at all, to be honest. I was expecting as I was doing this that the oldest game would be the first one to quit, because my theory was, okay, I'm going to go through so many games once I reach the limit. The last game I opened, or the first game I opened out of all of these I should say, will be the one that closes, and then it will go to the next oldest and the next oldest. Hence why every time I opened a new game, I went straight back to Uno and forwards. That's why I messed up with the order eventually, but yeah, that's why I'm always going straight back, just in case anyone's wondering. But anyway, let's go on to another game. We're up to 4 games now, and in my head that felt like it was going to be a little bit more intense for the console, obviously depending on the games, or I didn't even know that at the time, but I thought 4 games would start to show something, but once again, didn't show anything. We went with an old 360 game because I didn't really want to make sure I was running out of any games at said point, so I was using back compact games from all the ranges. We used Portal, still alive for this, and yeah, opened up just fine. Obviously, it takes a little bit longer I think in this run. I think it always loads a bit slower than I expected to, despite the fact it's SSD, etc. It's using a 360 emulator, but that loads fine eventually, and the same scenario as before. Uno loads fine, GTA 5 loads fine, F1 2020 loads fine, exactly where I left each of those games. So yeah, a 360 game, I wasn't expecting it to flap it, but 4 is now, you know, it's more than normal. Saying that, 1 was the norm before, so anything more than 1 is actually a benefit. I will also say, keep an eye on those 360 games later in this test. We're at 5 games now, and what I thought was the best thing to chuck at it was another big open world game to add to the other 2 we've already got. Let's add Forza Horizon 3, and let's hop around Australia instead. And I was thinking at this point, 5 games is the practical limit. As long as it passes this test, then for most people, I'd assume, unless you go extra, which in this case we still keep going from this point, 5 games would be fine for everyone. You'd be able to run through 5 games of mixtures of back compact games, big games, small games. So we loaded up that. Australia loaded up fine in Forza Horizon 3. Went back to all the other games, as you'd expect. Well, maybe. Let me know what you did actually expect from this. Where do you think it would fail, or do you reckon it'll be fine for like 25 games? But yeah, it loaded fine. All the other games loaded fine. 5 is a breeze for this console. For the 6, we had a Charged Fusion. Again, not exactly the most intensive game to add onto the list, but had to make sure it's a variety of bigger games, smaller games, etc., back compact games, and just older Xbox One games. I think you can guess where this is going from this point. Despite the fact that it's 6, which is a hefty amount of games, but the size of them all matters. Well, apparently it does now, because we're at 6 and Charged Fusion works just fine. Go back through all the old games, and not even the bigger games like Forza Horizon 3, GTA 5 specifically will look closing, so both of my theories of the bigger games get closed first, or maybe the smaller games close first, or just the oldest to newest, that's 3 theories, but all of them are holding up so far to not be true. It's not doing any of them yet. I don't know which one will actually be the one it uses, or if it'll just become something completely different. Now we're at the point where I thought something has got to start going wrong. Something has got to start stuttering. We're at 7 games now, and I decided to add a never open world game in Forza Horizon 2, as well as Forza Horizon 3 that I already have, and I'll tell you a little bit about those 2 games, because prior to this, a couple of weeks back, I was messing around with having, I think, about 3 games open at a time. Forza Horizon 3 was one of them, Forza Horizon 2 was the other, and I'm gonna guess something like GTA was the third. Had them all open simultaneously, as we do now, and as I'll probably be showing you. The rest are still loading fine, but a couple of weeks ago, it was failing to hold both Forzas at the same time with a third game. It was, one of them would crash at each time. Not sure why, back then it was struggling to have 3, but now we're up to 7, so I expect improvements. There's been updates since, but I don't know. Optimizations obviously help a lot, but yeah. They're working just fine right now. 7 games is a lot. If you're reaching that and you're still worried if you need more, we've got some more tests, but 7, I think everyone is fine at this point, but we're going to keep going anyway, because why not? Safe to say I'm definitely impressed with 7 though. Definitely very impressed with that. Sunset Overdrive is our 8th game, and I believe this is the first time I actually ever opened this game. I had it from Gold membership. Never opened it since, never played it. No idea really what it's about or what it's like, but it's on there. And same story as before, still no real stutters. I mean, you'll see it for yourselves, so hopefully I'm showing most of it. I'll have to cut parts because this will take too long otherwise, but Sunset Overdrive works fine. All the prior games still work before that, and I will say one thing that I noticed, and hopefully if you see Charged Fusion pop up, if it hasn't already or if it's about to, that's one example I definitely see it. It always needs to re-establish the connection between online games, because as you'd imagine, suspending a game that has any online connection probably severs that connection, and by the time we reload it, that will be having to be reloaded in the background to reconnect into Xbox Live as well with Portal on the 360 versions. That sort of thing has to happen. Obviously, as I say, only single player games are really going to be the ones you can do this with. You won't be able to do it in an online match, but I'm clutching at straws at things to say at this point, because it's just working far too well, and I'm impressed. I'm really impressed with this from Xbox, so 8 is fine. Let's go on to 9, apparently. In 9 games, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous that it's got 9. At this point, I was actually just staring at my monitor like, you should probably be quitting now. One of these things should stop. Do I stop at some point thinking it's unflappable? We opened Star Wars The Force Unleashed, another 360 title. That game always takes, again, all 360 games seem to just take a tiny bit longer than you'd expect with the improvement of the console. It's 360 emulator, etc. Can't even speak anymore. This is what's happened. But we loaded into a save anyway, and the save always starts weird. It always starts really, I don't know the right word to describe it, but it looks obviously off. I know exactly how I should describe it, but I can't. It looks really off. It catches itself back up again. It's only on this Series X. The game works. That's how it always has launched for me since I've got it on this. And all the other games still work whilst playing this. Like, all the other games haven't crashed. Maybe some of them start to load up a tiny bit slower, you'll be able to judge that for yourself, but nothing flappable for this console still at 9. So this is getting ridiculous, as I said. I don't know when it stops. Bear in mind, there's pretty decent games open. There's GTA 5 that's open, Forza Horizon 3 and Forza Horizon 2. Then we've got F1 2020 is in there, and a load of other games to just pack up the size that it's holding. We have reached 10 games, double figures in this entire test. 10 games all simultaneously open at the same time. And we chose Burnout Paradise. I'm not going to lie, at this point, I don't think there was many other games I could have even opened, because there was only the Series X optimized titles. Can't even speak, I've lost it now. There's only the Series X optimized titles to open, which I tested before. None of them would like it. Modern Warfare was available. Didn't know if that was, because I hadn't actually tested that yet. The only other option there, if I had to keep going, was to download more games, or just wait until I could get more games and then redo the test again. But we opened up Burnout Paradise, as I said, if I haven't already. Again, this many games, I've lost it at this point, so I don't even know. But as you can probably tell by my wording, we broke it. We finally broke it on 10 games. Burnout Paradise did open as normal and worked just fine, but it was when we went back through the games, we went through to Uno, GTA 5, I believe Portal got opened way later than it did. I believe it's the 4th game we opened or something like that. It got opened a lot later, but Portal was finally the one that got restarted. Considering it got opened later, I don't know if that would have changed too much, but that finally reloaded out of all the games. So I thought, cool, we finally stopped it, we finally broke it. I carried on, we had Sunset Overdrive next to open. That's still open fine, so again, don't know, there's no real rhyme or reason just yet. But then we opened up Star Wars The Force Unleashed, the other 360 title we'd opened, that had also reloaded. And then we went back to Burnout Paradise. Bear in mind, that was the last game we opened that then triggered all of these to start closing, or the 360 ones. And that had closed as well. I opened up Portal after it reloaded and I simply just closed it fully. The same with Star Wars The Force Unleashed, so it wasn't like it was still on its limit. It was technically less, but all the 360 games nonetheless just gave up at that point. Maybe that's a theory we can take. It's starting with 360 games, then Xbox One games? I don't know, but I feel like the emulator of the 360 and how it works has something to do with it. Like I said, it was slower to load all those games from the start compared to any other, not even optimized game, just Xbox One title. So those dropped, but all the other games still continued to work just fine. I went back through them all, they still opened. But at 10 I thought, okay, that's a healthy limit to reach. With Xbox 360 titles included, Xbox One titles, we can stop at that point. I don't think many of us are going to push it that far. To sum up, clearly Quick Resume is very well optimized currently. I wish I had some more optimized games to see purely if those have worked, and then mixing those with a couple back compat games. Fortunately, we don't have any of them to do that with, but hopefully in the future we can. And I feel like with just Xbox One games, because I feel like it was only the 360 ones that closed, we could have gone more than 10. Maybe 10 is just a hard limit. Maybe 10 games, no matter what the combination, if it's not got optimized games, it will still crash. I don't know, but I'm going to have to retry this when I get more games in my hands, especially optimized ones, because that's where it counts most. We're going to start leaving behind all these old games. For now, 10 is a good limit. If you really need a higher limit, 10 is what you need, but no one practically will really reach them. Just play the console, enjoy the games, leave some open if you want, close them if you want, it's fine. They all load pretty quickly nonetheless. That is Quick Resume in a nutshell. It's damn good. Well done, Xbox. I applaud you for this. I was expecting this to break a lot sooner, but you did very well. On that note, I'm done. Hopefully I'll be building my game library up soon. We can then retest this, optimized games included. Let's push this really to its limits, but for now, no stress, no worries of anyone using Quick Resume. Just enjoy your consoles, have a good time. That will be it. Like the video if you enjoyed, and if it helped out in any way, I hope it did, because it's definitely put all the eases away from me. And yeah, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell at all, helps us out a lot. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. See you.